Going the distance with local sports. This is the X Sports Network.
See me shine, 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 walking on beams of light, 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 light.
This is Jason at Volco Auto Supply in Lawrenceburg. For over 90 years, Volco has been a family-owned company. We're proud of our past and excited about our future. We're open to the public for wholesale and retail trade. We carry product lines such as Milwaukee Tools, Lucas Oil, and Malco product. We carry all major brands of lubricants like Shell Rotella, Avalon, Castrol GTX, Mystic, Motorcraft, Valvoline, Kindle, and Mobil. We here at Volco offer a complete line of car detailing supplies, shop supplies, tire repair products, and lawnmower supplies. Check us out online at VolcoAutosupply.com or at 416 Buffalo Road here in Lawrenceburg.
Going the distance with local sports. This is the X Sports Network.
And welcome back to the Back Nine, brought to you by Wohali Sports. I'm AJ Good, joined by Daniel Crew and Jason Vaughn. And guys, it's been a good week. Got some great weather out here, and looking forward to another lesson out here today.
Yeah, it's excellent. It was a little cloudy earlier, but now the sun's coming out, so the lighting should be good. And
for sure,
great day to get a golf lesson, I think.
Absolutely.
What do you think?
It was a wonderful day. Every day is a good day to get a golf lesson.
It is.
Fair.
But this one especially, because the humidity's not near as hot.
No, it feels, I mean, this is as good as you can get during the fall out here.
The good thing is if people are tuning in, they just get a free lesson
I know.
watching.
That's
Don't even have to get out of your house.
That's right.
Well,
They don't.
Well, speaking of, we talked about the takeaway last week. You guys got more to talk about, and that takeaway is probably the most important thing that you can have in the swing, especially judging by some of the videos you guys have been showing me today.
Yeah, so, I like to say that nothing's more important than something else, but the thing is you can correct a lot of stuff with a solid takeaway. Mm-hmm. A lot of people focus, they put the cart before the horse. So if you focus about something, because everything happens at impact zone, but you're in the position that you are at impact based on where the club was going back, how your setup was. So your setup, your backswing, your transition, and all of that, even your follow-through influences the way that even though it's after the shot, the style of follow-through that a golfer has gives me an idea of what was going on there. So if you just really, I'll tell you this, to be honest, the real secret is if you can fix the backswing and transition and the follow-through, everything in between has to be pretty good. So if you're good in the beginning and good at the end, that means everything in the middle is probably pretty good. So I do put a lot of emphasis on the backswing in our lessons.
100%. And over the years, I've continued to put a lot of emphasis on that. And I think it would be really hard, Daniel, if you had a good backswing and a good follow-through to do something bad at impact. You would kind of have to work hard. Harder than you would just to go ahead and hit the ball.
It would almost be intentional, right?
It would be.
It would almost be intentional.
You're correct.
And the reason why I don't like to focus on the impact zone, because there's a lot of motions. That's when the club is really traveling its fastest right here, what I call on the turn. So really at 9 o'clock on the downswing. And then after that, actually your body starts to decelerate somewhat. They call it hand deceleration, body deceleration, the body hitting the brakes. And because it hits the brakes, that's what causes the whip effect of the club coming through. So What I'm saying is the club is going as fastest through the impact zone, but the body is actually slowing down. The thing is, there's a lot going on, and you can't really, it's almost a reflex once you start your downswing. The neurological signals are already being sent, and you really don't have a lot of control. But what we do have control over, free throws of golf, if you've been tuning in, your setup. And then also the backswing's fairly slow. Take it slow, you can feel it. Make sure you get in a good position. If you're in a good position here, I'll let people just, let's fire it. Let's hit it as hard as you want, as long as you keep good balance. And then as you're slowing down, remember we start slowing down here, so that means we're really slow over here, so you actually have time and you can process and consciously control the follow through as well. So if you have good control here and here, usually pretty good. Usually pretty good.
Good swing.
That's right. So we're just going to dive into it and kind of share my screen here. This is a junior golfer. He's great. He's made tremendous progress. He's only been playing maybe 8 months, if that, maybe even less. And the old swing is going to be the one on this side. So it's on the left on my screen. As long as it's not mirroring, it's going to be on the left on your screen. And this individual, we talked about rotation on the backswing last week. What else did we talk about, Jason?
Talked about the takeaway and making sure that you're not too far on the outside or the inside, and making sure.
So where the hands are and the club is,
where your hand
pretty
path
much
is good.
At club parallel.
That's right.
Yeah, so we're going to notice, we're going to just just a brief overview. So when he takes it back, he actually has decent hip rotation. You can see if he had a belt on, it would be coming towards us. But you can see he really pushes his hands out and away, so that tells me that his upper body, so his thoracic rotation is pretty limited. So his hips are moving, but his upper body, his chest is kind of staying more at the ball. And it's an illusion here because your shoulders can move, but your torso doesn't rotate, right?
Right.
So the shoulders give us an impression that there's rotation, and there's not, and that's what this little kid was doing. And he's just taking it all arms, which causes his hands to get really high. And if you notice, I'm going to draw a line above his head. How about this? We'll draw a square. I like using squares because we can look at the top of the head and the front of the forehead. I like to look at this position and this position to see where the head moves back, forward, down, up. And you'll notice this kid actually starts dropping and moving towards the ball. Why do you think golfers do that? Because I see both, and I think they're both fairly common. I see golfers actually, and we talk this is forward bend and side bend. So forward bend is going to be bending over your belly button, and you got to remember the golf swing is a dynamic motion. So as you take the club back, forward bend is actually staying with your belly button. It's bending over here, and side bend is bending towards the ball. So this kid's struggling with a little bit. He's actually increasing his side bend, but he's probably decreasing his forward bend and bending towards the target slightly. But why do you think golfers struggle either bending down, have too much forward bend, side bend, or they lose it on the way up? What if you had to pick one or two things?
I mean, I believe that a lot of people struggle with how much, let's just say it's not having enough. Let's start with that. I believe that they do that because, number one, they are off balance with their weight distribution in their feet. So when they go to bend over, they don't allow their rear end to push back far enough. So they end up in a state of, number one, out of balance. So then they tend to stand up taller to make themselves, be balanced because they don't feel like they're falling over. And then when you go into your backswing, a lot of people tend to tilt down towards the ball, which you call side bend, they actually forward bend, then they rotate, and their left shoulder goes down towards the ball. A lot of people do that because, like we taught last week, they haven't been taught to rotate properly. So they end up dropping their knee, and so that it feels like they're rotating, but they're really not. And so, number one, that goes to where the footwork is going and where the pressures under the feet are going, and they end up just way too far out over their toes. And so it's really hard to, if you're not balanced, a good starting balance feet, 50-50, 60-40, toe to heel, making sure that you stay in balance is going to help you get in the correct setup.
One thing, you said a lot of good information there. One thing that stood out to me is you feel like that you're doing something, but you're not. That's the problem with golfers a lot. They come in here. I had a lesson yesterday. He said that he had a lesson a year ago, and it was weight distribution, and he's like, man, it transformed my game getting from my right side to my left side appropriately. And I was just hanging back on my back foot. Well, he was in here, and we have pressure mats here, so we can actually quantify and see what the eyes can't see, so we can actually measure it, not just look. Right. And his foot, you could see visually that it was staying down, but how much pressure is being applied. He was making impact, and he's a right-handed golfer. His weight was on his back foot, 68% at impact. But yet, he knew that there was a problem.
Yeah.
He's worked on it for 12 months. He's like, it's just the only thing I think when I go out there, get to my left side, which is a good thought.
Yes.
But the fact is he thought he's doing it, and he
wasn't.
wasn't. So I imagine, so think about this, and the way I take things is hey, I didn't see you a year ago. You were at another instructor. Yeah. He gave you very good advice, but he had no way of measuring it and didn't really stress the importance of knowing rather than feeling. And so we worked through some key drills, and that's what we do here at Wohali, is we point you in the right direction to get better, but we give you ways that are fail past that you can actually, for the longevity, get better. And the thing is, he probably was at 75% before, and now he's at 68, so he is probably getting a little bit better, and he saw the benefits of doing it. But yesterday, I really put him to the test, and I tested his coordination and balance really hard. I mean, he was falling over, but that's what we needed him to do. That proved to me that he's never done this before. So really cool. So thinking that you're doing something versus actually doing it is a big issue. So let's go to this kid, and I'm going to show you his head drops and goes out. And that is because he's going all arms, because he's not rotating. And with this junior, I just want to give you a little inside of what we went over. So these two videos are shot, I would say, 5 minutes apart. And all I did was set up a little station, and you can see the rods here. I'm not going to really go into what they do. And you'll see that there's something stuck in the butt of his club, and then I'm holding a noodle up here to kind of shorten his swing. So all this was focused on back swing only, from the very beginning to the top. And I told him where I wanted him, and I showed him 3 times. This is where I want you here. So I focused on club parallel, lead arm parallel, and the top. That's his 3 stop points. And I said, if you can do this, you're going to have a better downswing without us ever going into the thoughts of worrying about it. How many people and viewers, we would love for you to comment on our page, how many of you come over the top, you know that you come over the top, and you struggle fixing over the top because all you do is focus on over the top. You don't go to the motions that precede that and cause that over the top move. Remember, this junior, I did not go into, hey, you swing over the top and we're going to focus on you going over the top. No, we just made it simple on the backswing. So we're going to start at club parallel to the ground. You can see the club and the hands are way away from the body. So his hands actually moved away from the body, and the club is outside the hands. And what I like to do is draw a circle. And the goal here is I want to fit the club head, the shaft, and the hands, and it to be as small a circle as possible. That means you're close to on plane. Your better golfers are going to have a tight circle. So look at where we got him. Checkpoint number 1, we nailed it. This is 5 minutes later. Much smaller. So this means this is a very stable position. The club face is square. He already did a good job of kind of squaring the club face once we fix that. So now we're going to go to lead arm position. So lead arm is going to be focusing on the front arm, how that straight arm over here on the right. You can see it here. All I see is a fist. And I'm going to mark it in red so the viewers know what I'm talking about. So I'm looking at lead arm right there. If I could see through his left hand, his lead arm would be straight with the camera, right? I don't see his lead arm. The fact is we need that lead arm a little deeper. And look at where we are. So now that puts his hand plane going more through his trail bicep. And so I want you to watch his hands here. And his hands go under his right shoulder. And it puts him in a better position up here. And you can see he has a beautiful, stable 90-degree angle. And the club is above the hands. 90-degree angles are the most stable angles. That's why we build buildings out of them. They're very stable. And we need that stability and structure at the top of the swing because we're about to apply a ton of force on the downswing. Mm-hmm. There needs to be good structure up top. So we're going to go before, because his lead forearm was facing at the camera and he didn't have it visible here. See how I can see his lead arm? Mm-hmm. Can't see it here. Now his hands are up too high. This is a spot, and this will be kind of fun because I want you, we all know, if you're avid golfers, that Justin Thomas has kind of been struggling. I've been saying since day one that he's out there, and again, when you say everybody, there's always those 1 or 2 that can time, they can have maybe not the most perfect position, but they time it well and recover well over and over and over. But Justin gets a little high, I think.
He does.
And he doesn't do a terrific job of shallowing it out, which is good because it makes it consistent, his backswing and downswing on a similar plane, and there's not a lot of movement there, but I just think he starts at a little bit of a high position, and I think that's what gets him maybe in trouble. I could be completely wrong, but again, for all you viewers, I would like your feedback. I want you to watch his swing, and I like to see the hands go through or under the trail shoulder.
Correct.
And then stop. And if I drew a straight line here down, you're going to be going right through that trail bicep, where Justin Thomas would be more over that trail shoulder in here. He would be higher and closer to the ball. And that just cramps you up on the downswing. It makes you a little bit steeper. You get jammed up. And he has a lot of rotation, and I think that can mess up the timing of his rotation. So I'm going to let you talk just real quick, Jason. I'm sorry, but I was going to go into the downswing. And remember, this kid, I never spoke to his downswing. We only worked on backswing, arm parallel, club parallel, and transition up top. In his downswing, you can see how his club is outside of his hands. And then on this swing, the club shallowed out naturally, and he never knew what he was doing. All he knew was the backswing. He never knew what my goal was to influence where the magic happens, which is the downswing and impact. And it got much, much better after that.
I think you're spot on. With the 3 spots, same thing that we do in lessons that I teach is, 9 o'clock chest parallel and then top of the backswing. And I think it's super important, like you talked about with where Justin Thomas is, he's more over the top of his head. He's not quite back over this right shoulder. You drew your line and went down through the right bicep. I am pretty adamant about at the top of the backswing to have your hands, and if you draw a line straight down, it's going to hit you on the back of your shoe, like right behind your ankle. And so I think it's very important, and that does go right down through the trail bicep and right down. If you get, like you said, too much over your body, you can shallow the club, but your hand plane is never going to be correct. I think it's going to be really hard to make it correct unless you make a Jim Furyk-esque type move and start to drop it underneath. But then it's very, very inconsistent, hard to time up. It's so much easier if, like you said, the right angle look at the top of your backswing, having a perfect right angle, it's so stable and it's so easy to return that back to impact than it is if you've got your hands all, too far over your elbow, deep, too high. It's just hard to return that back to a consistent, like you're seeing with this young man, getting his club back on plane, coming down. It's going to be so much easier, and he won't struggle as much under pressure because all of his lines are really good, and he's in consistent positions at your 3 checkpoints.
That's right. So basically putting yourself up, I call it, the backswing is all about putting yourself in position for success. To relate it to other athletes is you want to be playing offense on the downswing versus defense. Right. The left golfer, the kid on the left, which is what he brought me, that's his normal swing, he was having to compensate the entire downswing to hit the ball. He was having to decelerate, throw his hands, do all these bad habits that golfers tend to have. So he was a very defensive swing, which most of us have, where if you start in a good position, you can just naturally, the club will fall. And again, what I mean naturally is I never told him to drop the club or shallow the club. I never gave him the words. I mean, that just overcomplicates it. All these things on social media that talk about shallow the club, throw the club down, let the club drop. Those are great. It's great advice, but as golfers and viewers, we tend to try to force it, and then it's not happen naturally. And the thing is we put him in a more natural position up top, and he returned the club without ever knowing it. And you know what? When he left, he never even knew what he was doing. I just kept it simple. Backswing, backswing, backswing. And we will see how well he progresses. But I do want to show you, because one of our topics when we started was forward bend and side bend.
Sure. I
never mentioned that to this golfer.
Right.
And what when we bring him on the way back, when he didn't rotate his chest, he was all arms. See how he moved forward and down?
Yep.
And I kind of filled it in with blue here. And the reason he moved down is that is what helped him get the club up and back, or at least give the impression of it. Again, never mentioned that to him. Now that I'm rotating his chest, you have to rotate your chest to get, when that lead arm gets visible here, that means that there was thoracic rotation. That's a good thing. Never mentioned it to him. Just said, hey, I want to see that, and I want it in line with this rod. So this was our checkpoint. I wanted this arm and this rod lined up. You can see he's still moving down and forward, but because he's rotating, it's not as great. See the difference, the space?
So much better.
So he moved way forward here. He only moved a little bit forward here. He still moved down, but he moved way down on the old swing. So there were so many improvements just focusing on the backswing.
Yep. Well, we'll continue the rest of this conversation about the takeaway when we return here on on the Back Nine, brought to you by Wohali Sports.
Lawrenceburg Flooring and More is your premier source for hardwood, laminate, luxury vinyl tile, sheet vinyl, residential and commercial carpet, carpet tiles, ceramic and porcelain tile, waterproof floating floor, plus blinds and shutters. Lawrenceburg Flooring and More is also home to all name brands and can tackle projects big and small. Installation? You're covered with installers who've got years of experience and stand behind their work. Let Lawrenceburg Flooring and More make your design dreams a reality. 2760 Highway 43 North, or visit LawrenceburgFlooringandMore.com.
Arctic Air keeps your home or business comfortable. For more than 20 years, we've provided outstanding residential and commercial services through southern Middle Tennessee. Whether you need assistance with your heat, air conditioning, preventive maintenance, or anything in between, trust our reliable team to get the job done. We'll take the time to figure out your specific needs and recommend what we believe is right and best for your situation.
We've been using Arctic Air for over 15 years now. Their service is great, they're here when we need them, and their prices are competitive. They take the worry out of the heat and air so I don't have to.
Arctic Air, when you need us, we'll be there.
Fall on the Hill returns to Minor Hill October 7th from 2 to 8 with live music all day, vendors, hay rides, a petting zoo, pony wagon rides, a pop-up paint party, face painting, putt-putt golf, a jams and jellies contest, inflatables, and much more. Plus, don't miss the fireworks show at 8 p.m. Fall on the Hill 2023, brought to you by Minor Hill Alliance and Liquor World. Enjoy a day full of awesome music from Brace Killen, Damon Schrader, Josh Reisner, and Salem Rats. Armbands are $5. Don't miss Fall on the Hill, October 7th from 2 to 8 at 165 Ray Branch Road in Minor Hill, Tennessee.
You're gonna see me shine, 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 walking on beams of light, 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 light.
Going the distance with local sports. This is the X Sports Network.
And welcome back to the Back Nine, brought to you by Wohali Sports. Continuing our conversation here about the takeaway, guys. We saw in the young man here just how just correcting the takeaway corrected so many things, and it's every part of the golf swing is important, and obviously this part here, it's amazing how a 5-minute correction changed so many things for this young man.
Yeah, and what we do, and a lot of times you can maybe agree, and you probably see the similar things, you can identify a situation pretty quick with a golfer. Really big on the cause and effect on why. I think it's important for the golfer to understand why you do what you do. And it usually falls into 3 buckets. It's either coordination, so just technique.
Right.
It could be stability or mobility. And when it's stability and mobility, then you might have to recommend some exercises, and that's where he specializes. I'm TPI certified, and you got a degree in kinesiology, right? And master's.
I do.
Yeah, master's in it. So we use that a lot, and honestly, it really helps golfers get better, because if you can't move a certain direction because of a physical limitation, it does no good to try to improve the technique. It actually can cause further injury.
For sure.
So we're big on the cause and effect of why they do what they do, and then we show the correction, and then we also explain why the correction is so important and how big the influence is. It's almost kind of, I call it, I've always grew up in sales, and I always tell people this is my sales pitch.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to convince you to go home and work on this, because a lot of times, don't you feel like a lot of people just go and they're like, hey, I understand it, and they just go straight out to the range and go play golf and almost forget about, they just think because, hey, I know what the issue is, it's just going to fix itself, and it's not. So we do a hard press, full court press on the sell of why you need to improve it. And so really we identify the issue, and that can take 5-10 minutes.
Correct.
We put them in the positions, that takes 5 minutes, and then I sit there and watch them. Hey, this is how we're going to practice it at home, and I need you to know how we get to this perfect position, and I want to show you. And then towards the end of the lesson, I always show before and after, and then we go from there. So I'm going to go up here and actually kind of talk about the backswing. And Jason, you can talk to me maybe a little bit about what you see as the problems in the backswing. We've already covered the lower body rotation. We're talking a little bit about forward bend and side bend, and maybe that lead arm parallel to up to transition.
Correct.
So is there anything that you would like to share?
Well, in your video here, he was mostly arms, taking the club back, and very little rotation. And then you'll have a student that'll come in, and we can speak to this, and the takeaway will be super deep, left arm pressed against chest, right arm pulling behind you, and the hands are super inside with a club head inside. So it kind of, let's say you take a student that is going back to the outside, and then you tell them, okay, we need to work on our rotation with your upper body, and then they come back the next lesson and they've overdone it and they've went the wrong direction. So now they're into a position to where they have really got themselves super deep behind them, way inside, and so it can make a both issue. It can be just as bad taking it outside as it is jamming it in,
It can, and you talking about that is something I deal with, because we have a lot of people that come in here and they get lessons quite a bit from us, right? How often do you have a student, and I love these students because it proves that they worked on it, but they've over-exaggerated the issue, and now they're just as bad as they were before, but the opposite direction. Right. It's almost like I tell people, it's like a drunk driver. We got to stay between the lanes. Right. We got to stay in one lane. We don't want to swerve off this road, and because we went off the road over here, we overcorrect, and then we go on the other side. So again, I always really, really push that the golfers follow the drills that we give them, because usually it has guidelines to keep them in their lane. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, correct.
So you got this camera on. Is that, yep, perfect. So I'm going to go down this line. And what Jason was talking about, so if you remember from my video, my golfer, he pushed his hands out and his hands got up and he got too vertical. So this lead arm was not visible. So what I wanted to do is get him back in here in a better position. But we also have golfers, like you said, Jason, that pull this right elbow, call it cranking the lawnmower.
That's right.
We really get down there and cranking. So what we're doing is we're cranking that right elbow, we're cranking the mower, and this arm gets low and pinned to the chest, right?
Yep.
So as you can see, and I'm going to turn towards Jason here in just a moment, is this lead arm is now pointed way behind me instead of down the foamy alignment rod. And that's going to be my guide, is when I get to lead arm parallel, which is this arm parallel to the ground, I want this lead arm and that to be in check. And that's how we stay between the two lanes, is they have something to look at. They have a pass-fail. Yeah. So when Jason was talking about this, you can see that this lead arm is below my shoulder line. My shoulder line, what I mean, is right here. My arm is down here. What my junior was doing on that video, his lead arm was way up high, so his arm was above his shoulder line.
Sure.
So is there one that you like to see more than the other? And actually, instead of that, I don't really like to see either one of them. I like to see right here. How about let's talk about this. if a golfer can't see that, because you have to have a camera, what if they're out, what shot patterns will they see if they're doing it wrong, do you think?
The inside or the
both of them. So if somebody's really pinned across the chest, low and behind them like this,
Yep.
what do you think they'll see? And you're going to notice, you remember I started that swing with that elbow. I'm going to turn this direction, keep that camera on. It's on my good side now. So you can see my elbow is behind me.
Yeah.
We want the elbow to stay in front of the chest always. So you can see that the elbow, and that's going to create a better 90-degree angle.
And you don't want that lead arm choking you around your neck.
That's
No,
correct.
you
So
don't.
if you get somebody that's too flat, elbows too far behind them, they've gone too deep, and again, they're like, man, I got great rotation.
That's right.
That's just moving your shoulders and just
Pulling your
has
elbow.
nothing to do with rotation. What
That's
you did.
right.
What shots could they see?
More than likely, you're going to see heavy shots, fat, hit behind it, and you're going to see big hooks or pushes to the right. You're going to see a lot
All
of
the
those.
above.
So basically every wrong shot you can think of.
Yeah,
See.
so he's
It's gonna
absolutely
have
right.
Trouble.
You're going to see typically more hooks is what I usually see,
That's
unless
right.
you force it not to be a hook. So what happens is when you get too far behind you, you're either going to overcompensate and hit a pull across, or you're going to stay low, and because you're low to the ground, you tend to hit it fat, and you're going to have to use your hands to flip it over. So both of those are going to cause more of a left. If you're the earlier one, you come over the top, then basically you're usually going to have to open up the face to hit that pull
right.
cut. That's right. And if you're lucky enough not to hit it fat, you're probably going to miss the ground and then catch the ball on the upswing, which is hit it thin. So it can cause all the above.
It can.
What about that person like my junior, my Justin Thomas, that was really up here? What are they going to see typically?
You're going to see a lot of thin shots because you're going to be coming down steep into the ground, and you're going to, like you said, you're going to get close to impact. And you're going to be like, oh my gosh, I'm about to miss this ball or whatever. And you're going to pull your arms in. You're going to hit a thin shot. More than likely, you're going to see some pulls and off, left or slices back to the right.
Yeah, so what I see, and this is the more common one, very rare, I'm not very rare, but I would say if I have 10 people come in, 8 of them are going to be more pushing the hands out and away and
correct.
getting more vertical. That's more the common problem, so we need to talk about it just a hair. So what's going to happen is you get here, you get vertical, and what happens is they tend to stay vertical. When I said golfers get here, they start moving and compensating this way. You would think, well, hey, if I get here, I'm going to compensate and move down. Most people have a hard time externally rotating their shoulder and dropping it inside, so they don't, and they get steep.
And it would be great if they did.
Oh, it'd be
they
great.
took it out and dropped it under like a Jim Fury. That'd actually be
Our job would be
Very-
really easy, wouldn't it?
move your arms this way a little bit, get your trail arm better, and
The secret
you'll be
to shallowing
good.
out is taking it straight up.
That's right.
I wish it were, but it's not. So what happens is these golfers, they get here, and it just causes them to come down here. I call it chopping wood. It's almost like you're hitting that wood and you're trying to split the timber, right?
That's right.
And again, we're not splitting wood, we're hitting a golf ball, so we can't come down sharp. So, and this is not, I always say we want to make the impact zone as big as possible. And what I mean by that is we want the club to stay on the ground as long as possible. When my golfers are steep, it gets here and it goes up. It's only on the ground really brief. So you have to be pretty precise when you hit that random good shot that you thought everything went good and it didn't. You got lucky. You just timed it perfect.
Right.
So when you're more on plane and shallow, that club is actually going to stay on the ground, and then come up. It's almost like a jet taking off or landing. It's a lot more forgiving. When we don't like a pilot that really slams into the runway, do you?
I don't.
Yep, and that's how we play golf for whatever reason. So what happens is we get here and we drive the club down. We're more verticals because my lead arm never got behind me and my hand plane was off. And what happens is that club gets outside the hands, and you can see on camera that the club is out past the ball. When that club is out past the ball, your body has to kind of compensate and slow down so that the wrist can pull the club back in to hit it. And that's what causes this move. We get here, and then basically our body quits rotating, and we hit the ball like this. So a lot of bad habits happen, and I guess what we're trying to stress today is because of the backswing.
That's correct.
Clean up the backswing.
And we had this conversation that there are instructors that look at it different, and some of them don't look at, how important I have, like you said, you have drawn into and feel like the backswing is important. And I feel like the backswing is one of the most important things that you can do. Get your setup, like we talked about, the free throw of golf, and then let's make a good backswing. And make sure that, like Daniel said, make sure you use something, whether it's rods on the ground like he's got, alignment rods. You could even get at home and get your door where you have a glass door and make the backswing where you have a mirror or something. But it is so important to have checkpoints like that. And I love the fact that he used his alignment rods, you know, 2 of them, 1 of them at an angle to make sure that your lead arm is in the right spot, your left arm or your
One thing
front
to
arm.
help you is you can even get without a golf club and stand up next to a wall. Make sure the wall, we'll pretend that there's a wall right here on my butt. And I want you to take your hands back and see if your hands stay on the wall at the top of your swing. And I bet that they don't. And that means that you're probably a little bit too upright. So that's just a good habit to do. And also it's a good way to stretch it out because you're going to feel like, whoa, that's pretty tough. Yeah. Well, you need to learn how to make that move. It's going to make your life easier if you're wanting to really play golf and improve. But again, this doesn't cure every downswing. What it does is it cleans it up enough to make it to where you start seeing some consistency. And then golfers come back in here and then we hit area number 2. We start really focusing. Once the backswing's clean, man, let's knock out the downswing.
It makes it so much easier when they come in with a clean backswing to go ahead and get started on impact or the follow through and help clean up impact. It's just, if the backswing is off, it's just going to be, you're going to be chasing your tail the whole time during the golf lesson or during your practice to try to find impact. It's just going to be really hard to do.
That's awesome. Yeah, backswing super important. So I'd say you might need to hit replay on this video and watch it again. Make sure you nail those positions. Again, we look at club parallel, arm parallel, and then transition. And we'll probably go into a little bit more of the transition and downswing next week on that.
All right, sounds good, guys. We're coming up next. We got the mailbag here on the Back Nine, brought to you by Wohali Sports.
If you could live anywhere, where would it be? And what would it be like? With today's home values, this is the perfect time to sell and make those dreams real. When you work with a world-class agent at Coldwell Banker, you benefit from trusted guidance and our revolutionary seller's assurance program to make your home sale more rewarding than ever. So it really is true. Your dreams don't have to be just dreams.
Southern Tennessee Orthopedics welcomes orthopedic surgeon Dr. Paul Thomas. Count on Dr. Paul Thomas, podiatrist Dr. James Barksdale, and nurse practitioner Doug Iad at Southern Tennessee Orthopedics to keep your life in motion. Injuries and foot pain can rob you of the activities you enjoy most. So our team is here, close to home, to address the pain and to get you moving again. Southern Tennessee Orthopedics. From the routine to the unforeseen, you can count on us. To learn more, visit SouthernTennesseeMedicalGroup.com or to schedule an appointment, call 931-762-4400.
Story and Lee, the Tennessee Valley's most dynamic furniture store, featuring our Made in America galleries with solid wood dining and bedrooms, leather furniture, mattresses, and so much more. You want it? We've got it. With our 3 acres of showroom and our huge warehouse, we're sure to have exactly what you want. And it's all ready to be delivered to your home absolutely free. Just try that anywhere else. We are Story and Lee.
Great food is just a short drive to Heine's Barbecue in Lawrenceburg. Mouth-watering is just one way to describe the amazing flavors of the best piece of Heine in town. When you dig into a plate of pulled pork, hand-chopped brisket, chicken, wood-fire oven pizzas, and the menu goes on. Wash it all down with a swig of Heine Shine lemonade and then make your way over to the gift shop full of Heine sauces, snacks, and more. Heine's Barbecue, Highway 43 North in Lawrenceburg.
Going the distance with local sports. This is the X Sports Network.
Welcome back here to the Back Nine, brought to you by Wohali Sports. Time to go into the mailbag, and there's a term that's used in golf a lot that certain golfers prefer. You hear of the cut, you hear of the fade. So when someone says, well, I like to hit a cut, or someone says, I like to hit a fade, guys, what are they talking about?
You want to take it?
Yeah, I can. a cut and a fade are similar shots, exactly the same. You know, it's just two different terms that you use. And a fade is going to be a shot that moves left to right. I usually like to say,
if you're a
right-handed golfer, sorry.
The ball starts out closer to the golfer and
then
works
moves
away.
away. You're going to go straight at the target and move to the right or to the left. So if you're a left-handed golfer. But you have a fade, and then you have, like, you don't want to use the term slice. That's the bad term. That's the bad shot. That's the one that moves, you know, I would say more than 10, more than 15 yards. Your fade's going to be smaller than that.
Right.
It's going to be, when I have golfers that come in and they're hitting a fade, and what we like to see with that fade or that cut is we like to see the ball go up and then feel like it's, like Hogan used to say, like it's rolling off a pool table.
Yeah.
You know, it's not moving and just moving away from your target with an intense slide or an intense spin. It's actually just barely falling over. And so to me, that's the shot that I play. It's the one that I found worked best for my, number one, what I saw on the golf course, and then number two, you know, I had to change my golf swing a little bit, but it works best for me off the tee box. So.
Yeah, cut and fade, very similar. I think a fade is usually quite small. A cut has usually a little bit more curve, but it ends up at the target. So what I mean is basically a cut and a fade is going to be the same for both right-handed, left-handed golfers. Basically the ball starts out close to the body, it goes across the body, and then works its way back away from the body, which is towards the target. And I think a fade just kind of, it almost looks like a straight shot, and it just slightly falls one direction or the other depending on you are. So for a right-handed golfer, it's just going to fall a little bit to the right, but it's going to be at the target. A cut's going to have a heavier, little bit more start direction on the inside of the body and then fall towards it. If anything works its way past the target line, I start calling that. That's where it's a slice. That's where the face is too open, and which causes that slice. So yeah, a lot of people think that the club path is the main culprit of a ball doing what it does and where it goes, and it's not. It's usually a combination of face and path, with the face influencing 80% of what causes that ball to fall right or left. I like to see people hit fades and cuts. It's probably one of the most preferred shots on tour. They feel like they have a little bit more control over it. But again, I can tell you this a lot. There's an old wives' tale, and I can prove it. If you want to come here, we'll prove it. Is you can hit a draw further than you can hit a fade. And it's not true.
It's not true.
The thing is most people hit a push slice, and the other golfers hit a pull hook. And yes, it's going to go further because both are incorrect. And one, you're shutting the face completely down. So yeah, if you look at it that way, you are correct. But a draw does not go further than a fade. Okay. If you hit a fade correctly, you're squaring up the face, you're not adding loft to it, you're not adding spin to it, and it can actually be a more powerful shot.
For sure.
Because you're actually swinging left of your target a little bit harder, which is going to be faster than swinging away. A lot of people try to hit this big sweeping hook, and the club is going further away from when they're swinging out between first and second base, and you lose a lot of speed that way. The only thing that regains the speed is the toe flip, and that's about it.
That's it.
And closing the face, they're de-lofting it. They're not really getting any faster. So again, that's my 2 cents on fading, cuts, and draws and stuff.
Yeah, you answered. Well, I was getting ready to ask what's the one if you're right-handed that goes from right to left, and that's a draw. For some reason, I always mix up the cut and the draw when the draw and the cut or the cut and the fade are similar.
Yeah, you're doing it right now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just like you said, how do you hit that? What constitutes you're doing the backswing wrong, and you literally mention every wrong shot. I'm like, yeah, I hit every single one of those every time.
And the reason why his answer was that way is because the path doesn't control the shot shape necessarily. Right. It's where the face is delivered, and the face is open or closed, you can get every shot. The thing is, the more off plane your swing is, the more you have to use your hands to square it up. And there goes your consistency. Sometimes you're going to shut it. Sometimes you're going to open it. You're like, man, why do I hit it? Our goal when you come in here is to have you find one side of the course 70% of the time.
That's right.
I want you to miss it. I'm happy if you miss. You're like, hey, if you come in here, I missed the ball 80% to the left. Well, that's excellent.
Yeah.
That means that the right's no problem. Let's learn how to bring it in, but we're not looking for a full correction. Because the worst thing you can do is hit a straight shot that can go either left or right.
Right.
And I agree with that, and I want to echo that sometimes you have a student that comes in and they're like, teach me to hit it straight, and I'm like, no.
Yeah, people think that think about this. It's like a sword. I mean, if you can go either right or left, that's a bad thing. Some people are like, I want my swing path at 0. Well, why? That doesn't. I mean, that's dangerous, because if that pin's on the right side of the green with water on the right side, well, you don't know what your miss is, so you don't know where to aim, and you're going to hit right at that pin, and it could go either way. We like. It's like any sport. If you play a lot of sports, there's strategy in every sport, and you got to use strategy. You got to use your misses as a strength to make a better decision. And it's good to have a miss and know what your miss is typically, and that's going to allow you to pick either the center, the right, or the left side of the fairway or the green.
Yeah, and it helps you score better.
That's correct.
Once you know what you do better, it helps you score better.
And for all you that think, well, I just like to hit it straight and it be at the pin every time, the thing is, we don't live in a Walgreens perfect world.
No, we don't.
And it's not going to happen. Right. So you got to know what your miss is. And the thing is when you know what your miss is, you can hit a good shot and hit that miss, and it still be a birdie putt from the fairway. And if you hit your typical miss, and what I'm going to say is, like, say I missed the ball 4 yards typically, say we hit hundreds of shots in here, I missed the ball 4 yards right of my target on average with my 7-iron. So that means I'm 12 feet right of my target 80% of the time. So that means I very rarely miss it left, correct?
Oh, yeah, and then 12 feet.
It's not bad, right?
No.
That's amazing.
And that's what we're talking about. We're not talking about we're missing it by 40 yards to the right. We got to bring that in.
That's right.
We're talking about where you can aim somewhere, and our goal is to put you on the green in regulation so that you have 2 shots at par.
Right.
Make it easy, right? That's our goal, make pars. So if that pin is on the back left of a green and there's water on the left side, I know that I never miss it left. Only 20% of the time. Yeah. Well, I'm going to take my odds and say I'm going to go right at that pin. I'm going dead at it, because if I push it like I normally do, little push, cut, whatever it is, I still got 12, 15 feet for birdie. That's not bad, right?
That's makeable.
Makeable, right?
Yeah.
Easy 2-putt.
Easy 2, yeah, exactly.
And if I hit basically a good shot there, it's going to be right at the pin that 20% of the time. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
so I typically miss to the right. If I hit that lucky straight shot, it's at the pin, and very rarely do I go opposite and go across. Right. You know what I'm saying? And if it does, I will proudly hit it in the water and walk and take my poison, because I know I made the right decision. I played to my strengths and weaknesses. You can't get upset on that. Nope. So again, our goal is for you to find a stock shot.
That's right.
Where are you going to miss it? And the thing is, we go through all the clubs and we find your standard deviation, so 68% of the time of what you're hitting shots, and we can go through your bag and say, hey, you hit your 8-iron, 9-iron, 7-iron to the right of the target. When we get to longer irons, the toe's up a little bit more, and you tend to hit them to the left of the target. If you know that, you can make better decisions on the course.
Absolutely.
I think you're spot on, and finding that in the lesson, I think, is very important. Teaching somebody to do that, and then, I'm going to put a plug in for our facility out here. You can come out and get on this top tracer and do your app, and it will tell you, it'll help you while you're working on that, because you can go through each club. And then also it will show you, all right, I'm hitting them to the right. So 80% of the time I'm to the right of my target, And so you can get out here and practice that at aiming at the targets. And I think it's so important for you to know, so you don't end up, if you do short side yourself every once in a while, or hit it to the short side of the flag, or where there's a little bit more trouble, it's okay, because most of the time you're going to hit it in that spot that you were talking about and have that birdie putt, makeable birdie putt.
As long as you make better decisions, and I think golfers make it. We chase perfection, and there is no perfection in golf. You're always, even the best in the world are working on it. And again, we want to tighten up our misses as much as possible. But the thing is say you miss half your clubs on one side of the target line, half on the other. It's not a bad thing as long as you know it. Don't try to correct it. Don't try to be something that you're not.
That's right.
Just know what you do and play to those strengths, and have better course management. I can tell you, scores get really screwed up, and a lot of it's on course management. And that, we can teach a lot about the swing, but like Jason said, come out here, learn your shots. It goes to your phone, and you can actually map it out. It'll pull up and say, hey, this is where you're hitting it, and you'll start to see patterns. And that's what you need to see trends and patterns, and just use them to your strength.
That's right.
Absolutely. It's all strategy.
all strategy.
It's just like you guys mentioned, just in every sport has strategy. They don't just roll the ball out there and start playing basketball, baseball, and football. There's a point behind everything.
It's easy to watch football and yell at the coach through the TV. Why did you do that? But the thing is you got a good team up in the top box. They see something.
They've watched film for hours.
They've watched it. They know what their players' tendencies are. They know that they move better left or right. They know. And it doesn't always work out, right?
Right. No.
But the thing is
the best. It's all about them putting their players in the best position to succeed. And it's all about putting yourself as a golfer in the best position.
That is
to
it.
succeed.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, coming up next here, we'll close out the show here on the Back Nine, brought to you by Wohali Sports.
For decades, First Class Charter has provided high-quality motor coach transportation services to the Tennessee Valley. With numerous safety and cleanliness accreditations, First Class Charter is ready to make your group trip a reality. Contact us today by visiting firstclasscharter.net. First Class Charter, the official motor coach company of the North Alabama Lions.
Jack Davis Insurance, located at 201 West Gain Street in Lawrenceburg, has you covered through life's obstacles. Facing those challenges is easier together. That's why Jack Davis specializes in group insurance. Cover the most valuable aspect of your business, your employees, with coverage for life, accident, cancer, critical illness, short-term disability, dental, and vision. Jack Davis can customize to meet every need. Serving Lawrence and surrounding counties since 1987. Contact Jack Davis Insurance today at 931-242-5225.
If you're stuck, then you're in luck. Call Tyler McDowell with In-Service Towing, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for quick, reliable service. When you find yourself in a bind, In-Service offers full-service towing and recovery services as well as vehicle lockouts, jump starts, and emergency roadside assistance. Family-owned, family-operated. When you need a hand, call In-Service Towing or ask for them by name. Serving Southern Tennessee and North Alabama. Phone number 931-843-9098 or visit inservicespecialties.com.
Hey, this is Phil Hooper. Get the look you want for your favorite school, church, or business with apparel from HD Ink Screen Printing in Leoma, Tennessee. Got a logo you need embroidered or screen printed? Let HD Ink give you the professional look that sets the bar in today's world. We do fundraisers and custom designed apparel and so much more. Call today, 931-201-2961, or come see us at our new shop located at 26 Ingram Road in Leoma. Remember, HD Ink for the look you want and the look you deserve.
Going the distance with local sports. This is the X Sports Network.
Welcome back here, the Back Nine, brought to you by Wohali Sports. Closing out the show, Jason, you were showing off a little bit here. You said you got your chipping game down as that knee continues to get 100%.
Yes, we are. I think last time I was here, the last show, it's like 117 on the bend. We're at 125, which is where most people stop. We're going to push to 130, which is max on a prosthetic or prosthesis or fake knee, and so partially fake. And then hopefully get released in a couple weeks when I go back to sea to start hitting half shots and then work my way up. As not having any pain. He's going. I mean, that's always a key. Is starting to work back into hitting the golf ball, and this is where I think it's going to be neat to write some of it down, kind of keep notes, keep some video, things like that, on how working around the prosthesis, mentally, how am I going to do that?
Yeah.
And then physically, how am I going to do it? So I think more than anything, physically right now, it's not hurting as much. That has gone way down.
Yeah.
Mentally, my brain's still telling me, well, you got something wrong with your knee. Can I really load into it, or am I going to have to change that? And so can I bust through that, that wall of, just being a little scared to put the pressure on it. So we'll see what happens. But every time I've come back from either injury or surgery, I always start short and then work my way up. And I usually come back hitting the ball a little better than when I came into it. So we'll see if we can get better at the short game and contact, working on contact.
It's a big thing. Hey, next time you get on the course, that chipping game should be.
Yes, it does help.
Yeah, should be great.
That's all you can work on for a month.
One of your former players, Trent Alexander, he broke. What did he tear?
He broke his ankle, I think, in like 2 or 3 places, and had some real trouble with it.
Yeah, and actually coming back, and he's a really good player. He's played in U.S. Amateurs, U.S. Mid-Ams. He actually played in a couple this year. USGA plays a lot of those events, and he's come back stronger. And again, when I say stronger, I don't know if his body's stronger, but his golf game is way better, and he's way more in control now. And maybe it's because it's top of mind all the time, and he's slightly slowed down a little bit. He's a high power golfer, high efficiency, and but yeah, he
moves the ball.
He really does, and he now he has way more control since that injury. That's crazy.
Yeah, hey,
and sometimes it works like that.
Yeah, sometimes the body just corrects a lot of things when you take a break and fix some things on the inside.
Sure.
Yeah. All right, well, that will do it for the Back Nine, brought to you by Wohali Sports. So for Daniel Crow, Jason Vaughn, and for our producer and Kevin Wright, this is AJ Good. We'll see you guys next week.
Going the distance with local sports. This is the X Sports Network.